Hi, all. Welcome to this session where we shall be discussing the topic called innovation and change. Uh, as we all may be aware, that innovation is one of the uh, prime activities that the organizations are expected to engage in, all the more in the present times as against the times gone by, when innovation is possibly one of those very few drivers which which keeps the organizations stay afloat, sustain themselves in the cutthroat competition that they face from numerous players in their segment. Let's see uh, in at length as to what innovation is, what change is, and what are the various points of view to understand each of these topics, innovation and change. Okay, so the expected learning outcomes from this discussion, um, the the learners, after having listened to this video, should be able to explain why innovation matters to companies, explain how managers can effectively manage innovation, and discuss the different methods that managers can use to better change, to manage, to better manage change as it occurs. Right. So there we go. So what do we mean by organizational innovation? Uh, so as it defines the process of translating an idea or invention into a good or a service that creates value, or for which customers will pay. So not every new idea or not every creation can be called an innovation. Innovation has to be, of course, it has to be something novel, something new, and it has to add value to the offerings of the company to its customers. So, and it has to bring back the economic value to the company in form of the revenues or in form of the profits that they seek from their clients or customers. So that's when you call an idea converting successfully into an innovation. To be called an innovation, an idea must provide an economical cost, right, and must satisfy a specific need. So the economic value add um, to the company is a must to be called an innovation. And further, it suggests organizational innovation is the successful implementation of creative ideas in an organization. I'm sure by now you must be thinking about those various numerous innovations that we are surrounded by across the sectors, may it be manufacturing, may it be services, banking, or FMCG, or white goods, electronics, or financial services, whichever sector you take. The companies are engaged, seriously engaged in the process of bringing out some new product or some new practice. Broadly, if you see, innovation can be seen happening in three spaces. One, the product space, like we had seen way back. Hewlett Packard was one of the pioneers of bringing an inkjet printer into reality, right? When the entire world was still operating with the dot matrix, the conventional dot matrix printer, Hewlett Packard is considered as one of the early pioneers of inventing an inkjet printer, which brought about a revolution in the printing sector, and that was a great innovation. It brought immense economic value to the company, and it offered immense utility value to the customers of Hewlett Packard, and hence can be called a successful innovation. Likewise, Tesla, which is still struggling with this concept of its driverless cars, but it's in trial stage. It comes out of a grand vision of the founder CEO Tesla, Elon Musk, who envisions of cars being driven by themselves, right? And the passengers relaxing and engaged in their respective work, which has its own challenges, its own critical areas to be evaluated, and the regulators, the governments the concerned bodies are engaged in evaluating the idea, which is yet to secure the approval from the regulators. But then, if and when it comes, it hits the road successfully, the driverless cars will be considered as a great innovation from Tesla, right? So those are the product innovations. And the next category, next space where innovation can still be can be seen happening is the process innovation. Process is the service innovation, product or service. Like Dell. Dell had so to make its product to penetrate its product into the market more swiftly with less hindrances. What it did, it reduced the number of intermediary channels that it takes for a product to starting from exit from the making the company till reaching the customers. All the wholesale, the retail, the intermediaries, the distribution channels, etc. Many distribution channels between the point of origin for the product and the point of delivery, the final point of delivery of the product, were reduced. And it ensured, under the leadership of Michael Dell, that the computer, a computer made by Dell, reaches to its customer direct from Dell. So that was a service extended to its product that Dell had innovated, direct from Dell distribution system, which is considered a revolutionary innovation in its space. Likewise, you may have heard of the Dabbawalas. Dabbawalas, the one of the unique Dabbawalas of Mumbai, who have been since decades. They've been engaged in collecting the lunch boxes from the households and delivering them to the respective personnel working at the office, right? And the unique thing about Dabbawalas is that they have a coded delivery system which ensures that not a single lunchbox ever, out of those lakhs of lunchboxes that are collected from the households and delivered at the point of delivery, and there are some thousands of Dabbawalas engaged in this service every day, and it changes several hands, several trolleys between the point of origin and point of collection and point of delivery. However, their coded delivery system ensures that not one box, not one day, not once is misplaced or misdelivered or missed out, and this can be called a great service innovation that Dabbawalas of Mumbai had designed and delivered successfully, which is why the organization was felicitated with the celebrated Six Sigma certification, which means their service is a near perfect service with almost zero errors in the mechanism, right? So that was an example of a service innovation, product, service, and lastly the process innovation. So when you are engaged in the process of delivering a product or making of the product or delivering the service, there is a process involved, and there are several process steps involved in every process. And any innovation that streamlines the process, that improves the process, that minimizes the errors in the process, or that optimizes the process further, or that adds efficiencies to the process, can be referred to as a process innovation, right? For example, Six Sigma, which is a celebrated quality initiative, an innovation by Motorola. We may recall Motorola is a telephony company which was the first to bring about this concept of Six Sigma, which was later embraced worldwide. Six Sigma is nothing but it's a process innovation which ensures that the number of the quantity of output, whatever output it is coming out almost error free. The what is Six Sigma? Six Sigma here means the three sigma on left and three sigma on the right side of the normal distribution curve, and which means not more than three errors in a million output is what is meant by six sigma, and which was considered an extremely rigorous process, a process perfection, which was embraced by many companies, and it's not an easy job to attain a certification in Six Sigma, which means the company or the process has attained the status of almost zero error uh, output, right? Likewise, General Electric is known for many process innovations like boundaryless workouts, etc. So boundaryless is a cultural initiative at General Electric under the leadership of the then chairman Jack Welch, who was a little unhappy with the number of hierarchical levels that General Electric was operating with, and the silos or the organizational facades, silos that were blocking the interpersonal approachability, communication between the departments. So he came up with this process innovation of boundaryless culture. You first reduce the number of hierarchical levels that the organization is operating in, and make the managers and leaders more approachable, more interactive to with the staff, the employees, and hence boundaryless culture is considered one of the highly respected, highly embraced process innovation. That's how we understand innovation, the definition of innovation, and the various areas in which innovation is possible. Broadly, three areas: product innovation, service innovation, and process innovation. Okay, that takes us further. Excuse me. So that shows what makes innovation an imperative, what makes innovation a must for um, any organization, irrespective of the activity that it is engaged in. It could be a product company, it could be a service company, it could be a consulting company, whatever the nature of the company. Innovation is a must, as you can see the graph which was propounded by a management theorist called Richard Foster, who visualized based on his research that 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 any innovation comes with a particular age, duration, and an expiry date. And those two curves that you see, each curve represents the life of an innovation, the moment from the origin of the innovation. You look at A, and then it is growing. Once it becomes successful, it grows on the path of B, and then it reaches a stage where it is flattened, it is plateaued, which means the innovation has is about to hit expiry, and the market is all set for a new practice, new product, a new service, a new innovation from the companies, and whoever looks at the opportunity jumps into into the opportunity and offers a new innovation, and then it takes off, where you see the point C, where the previous innovation curve ends and a new innovation curve begins. And that's the way you see, like for example, you may have seen, we had seen the world listening to the music through music players, and way back about 30 years ago we saw Sony coming up with a revolutionary music instrument which was not confined to the tables or living rooms, but which could be fitting into your pocket and you can walk away listening to the music, right? Which is a Walkman, Sony's Walkman. So that was a disruptive innovation that shook the market of music players, and thus Walkman became the market leader. And it stayed as a market leader as long as Apple came up with another innovation, shrinking the product all the more, which can fit into your palm. And not only that, there was there was another disrupting feature about this innovation from Walkman to iPod, which is the music, the the technology of music has transformed from analog to digital. So that was the phase of time when the whole world around, many most of the applications were transitioning from analog to digital, and iPod was one such revolutionary music gadget which decimated the music industry, which disrupted the music industry and made a huge space for itself, becoming the market leader. Apple's iPod, which generated music digitally and which shrank the size of the music playing instrument to as small as less than the size of a palm, right? So that's how you saw how innovation through the times, through the ages, changes the names, shapes, and faces and the forms, and how maybe if you look at music player, who were the players, the names of the players were like Panasonic or National or some of those, Philips. Whereas when it came to Walkman, one leader who shook the industry, it was Sony, right? And when it came to iPod, it was an invention and innovation by Apple. So whoever observes the opportunity for an innovation, they catch up with the new wave and they engage in inventing or innovating something new and offers to the market with immense value to the consumer and immense economic value to the company, right? Likewise, some of more examples that you can realize: cord phone. We have seen the cord phone with the dialing system, as you may remember, which transitioned to cordless phone. You know, the cordless phone, the cord was gone, the dialing was gone, the numbers got stuck to the belly of the phone, and which also had a limitation. It had a limited radius that it could be rotated around, it could be moved around. Whereas the next generation revolution was a mobile, seamless portability, seamless utility, and multiple utility through the mobile, which again saw various generations of updating. Like we saw the resource mobiles, we saw the smart mobiles, VR of course, and along with the mobiles, we have been seeing the generation of technologies of in the telecom that equip mobile with the advanced communication systems, right? So likewise, we have seen the gasoline engine has ruled the vehicles on the road for decades, many decades. Now the whole world is gradually transitioning into the lithium batteries, the green hydrogen, some of the names that you can hear around. So that's a innovation which is changing waves. You know, they originate, they grow, they stabilize, and then something new comes in, originate, grow, stabilize, and then decline. So that's a natural path. Likewise, in technology, programming languages, you may have seen, you know, the when computer was new on the desktops, some of the programming languages that the programming on computer started with are things like disk operating system, DOS, COBOL, FoxPro, and then the next generation programming languages, more advanced, more sophisticated, namely .NET, Java. And now the world has become more open, more transparent, and hence the programming languages which are offered by the open source softwares like Python, Kotlin, etc. are gaining prominence. So the point that comes out clearly in this is innovation is a must, and any innovation is only temporary. And whoever makes the best of that temporary phase of innovation makes the best in form of the economic value, as well as creating a customer base, adding business to oneself, and becoming a market leader, right? So that's about the S curve and the technological innovation that we can see in the real world. Okay, so that introduces some of the components required for creating innovative or creative environments in the organizations. As you may realize, organization itself should be encouraging. What do you mean by encourage organizational encouragement? One of the prominent things while innovating or while coming up with some breakthrough is failures. Any invention or innovation is uh, essentially and necessarily is preceded by failures. It could be few failures, it could be serial failures, it could be numerous failures, but only such organizations who trust in their resources, their personnel, their talent, and those organizations who can see the light at the end of the tunnel, only they can succeed in innovation. Hence, organization, the leadership of the organization, the culture of the organization should be so conducive that they create an encouraging climate for their talent, their human resources to come up with a an innovation. Likewise, supervisory encouragement, as we said, the bosses, the leaders, um, who should be encouraging enough, should be motivating to tolerate the failures, tolerate uh, the, the delay, and offer a conducive atmosphere and adequate resources to come up with the innovation, right? Likewise, work group engagement, the team culture, the group culture in the organization should be so healthy and conducive that people are engaged, excited to work towards a innovation. Freedom, work culture should be free enough, should not be shackling, should not be shackled, should not be choking. It should be offering enough levels of liberty and freedom for people to experiment. Something that's inevitable, that is unavoidable, that is a must for an invention is or innovation is experiment. And what do you need for experiment? You need freedom. You need less questions and more space, more resources, more liberty to be allowed to conduct experiments. So, and for that to happen, you need lack of organization impediments. What could be the impediments? Impediments could be like bureaucracy, red tapeism, or micromanagement, or lack of funds, lack of resources. These could be some of the reasons which can create organizational impediments, which must be reduced. Creative, challenging work itself should be challenging, right? Innovations cannot be created out of some cakewalk, easy peasy kind of task, and the work itself should pose challenges to the personnel, and thus we expect innovation. So those were some of the components essential for creative work environments. Okay, that takes us to the next concept, that is compression approach. What do we mean by that? Compression approach is one of the points of view, one of the ways of looking at innovation, which assumes that innovation is a predictable process, that incremental innovation can be planned, and that compressing the time it takes to complete steps can speed up innovation. So the assumption may be debatable. It is not claiming to be the best assumption or the best way of look at innovation. There may be people who might argue and debate the limitations in this point of view. However, this is one take people have chosen to argue, to debate about, which assumes that it's a predictable process. And some of the changes, some of the aspects in regard to this approach we see are the um, generational changes, namely uh, so those are a few instances, illustrations, as you see, which support the compression approach to innovation. Like one of those is uh, generational change. So as you see the workplace witnessing uh, change in generations, namely X generation X to generation Y to generation millennials, and as you may be aware that the generation the span of attention, the levels of engagement of the millennials is significantly lesser as compared to generation X and generation Y, and this is what gives rise to a possibility that innovation can be planned as an incremental approach rather than looking at it as an elaborate, exhaustive, time taking, and unpredictable process, right? Likewise, one more illustration: supplier involvement. So this comes out of a basic premise as to you don't need to make everything that you sell. So there are companies which are huge brands, world's most popular brands, but then they don't make these products that they sell. That's one of the um, incremental innovation that they have offered to themselves by not engaging necessarily into whatever they make. Say, for example, iPhone is uh, one of the biggest brands in the world in the mobile sectors. But then, does Apple make iPhone? Not. We know that iPhone is the body, the case of the iPhone is made by this company called Foxconn, and hence Apple can concentrate better, can engage itself better in the improvement of technology part, so that the physical paraphernalia, the physical peripherals of the phone is made by someone else at a lot lesser cost and with much greater perfection, right? So that's likewise. You may have heard of these popular sunglasses or shades called like Ray-Ban or Police, or Oakley. Do you think they make their own sunglasses? No, there is a Italian company called Exotica, which is a one of the most one of the biggest sunglass makers in the world, and which is a supplier to all these branded sunglasses companies. So that's one way how you can compress innovation by you engaging in your core area and outsourcing a certain part of your product to certain iterative, repetitive, and a predictable part of your product to a supplier, right? Likewise, shorten the duration. So, with the advent of various process innovations like Agile, Kanban, or Lean, these are some of the most popular process innovations which make a huge project look like some of many shorter projects. They chunk a huge project into projects of shorter durations and shorter sizes, so that innovation can happen in any of these iterative subcomponents, and it can add value and incremental value to the overall project. So that way, through generational change or suppliers involvement or shortening the duration, some of the ways in which companies can add value, incremental value in a predictable way to the organization in form of an innovation. Another point of view that comes into picture here is an experiential approach. So as against compression approach that we have just learned, experiential approach suggests or assumes that innovation is occurring within a highly uncertain environment. The key to fast product innovation is to use innovation, flexible options, and hands-on experience. So this might be applicable to some companies which are engaged in such rigorous technical product or the the products that are based on intense domain knowledge or subject knowledge. For instance, the design iteration is one way in which innovation is seen to be a continuous process which is operating in a highly uncertain environment. So you have seen design iteration. What do you mean by design iteration? So where you are, your design is iterating through sequences, through series, as you see Apple 13 Pro, Apple 14, Apple 14 Plus, Apple 15, Apple 15, iPhone 13 Pro, 14, 14 Plus, 15, 15 Pro. All these are various iterations of the same product which keep coming sequentially one after the other. Likewise, product prototype. You create product prototypes to ensure that the innovation, the final innovation, is in a way that is expected by the final customer, right? So experiential approach as against compression approach is bringing in the element of uncertainty, and you have to deal with the uncertainty. And innovation, it assumes that innovation is not a cookie cutter kind of approach where you put things and you just put it as throughput and the output is an innovation. That's not that's not how you can see innovation happening. And you can see this more prominently in the companies like pharma companies, where innovating, coming up with a drug breakthrough is a very, very long process. Sometimes a drug, right from the stage where you identify a potential molecule that can be identified as the molecule and that can be processed into a drug finally, it might take about 10 years or 15 years. There's a rigorous process involved which has to go through various tests, evaluations, quality checks, multiple iterations, and hence from the point of view of these sectors or these kind of companies, innovation can also be seen as an experiential approach rather than a compression approach. You cannot put pressure on a pharma company by whatsoever means, and you can't expect them to come up with a drug in a year or two, right? Because there's a long approved authentic process rolled out to ensure that the right drug hits the market without any potential damage to the health of the consumers. So you need to create prototypes, you need to test it through various stages, various types of tests, and then so one of the things that can also add is to create multifunctional teams, right? By composing teams in such a way that people from across departments, across the verticals form a team and can look at the prototype or the problem at hand or a potential innovation from various points of view. So the cross-functional expertise and the diversity in the teams helps in making innovation much more effective, right? So that was an experiential approach after the compression approach. So that was essentially about innovation, and that brings us to change, right? As they say, change is probably the only constant thing around us. There's nothing else as constant as change, right? And what prompts us to change, and what are the forces that are acting around change? So broadly, there are two types of forces that are around any particular change. What can be an example of change? Change can happen within the organization, or change can happen outside the organization at the sectoral level, change can happen at the economic level, change can happen at the global level. So, for instance, as we discussed, the climate norms or the climate regulations being imposed by the governments of the world, and that brings a force that brings a pressure on the organizations, especially the automotive sectors, to streamline their engines, to improve their engines, take it to the next level where the engines, the emissions, the carbon emissions of the engines can be adhering to the new norms as set by the climate regulation bodies, right? So that's a change. And what else can be a change in terms of the in terms of technology, right? So we had this we had the ERP. So for example, if you take the enterprise resource planning systems, which were offered then by the companies like IBM or Oracle, which were leaders of the ERP softwares. But then those were the times when the ERP systems were delivered at the physical premises of the organizations, right? The client, the representatives would come physically, install the software, and would be attending as and when there is a issue or a consulting is necessary. However, the world has changed now. About 15 years, about a decade or a decade and a half ago, the physical premises based ERP system is a thing of past. Now the whole world has transitioned to the cloud-based services, right? Software as a service, SaaS. So that's a huge, big change that the technology sector has undergone in the last 10 to 15 years. So those are the forces that that lead to the change forces, as it describes here, lead to differences in the form, quality, or condition of an organization over time, and it compels the organizations to change, right? So as we were discussing the ERP systems, which transitioned from physical premises based to cloud based, we see it compelled all the organizations like Microsoft, Dell, Oracle, or IBM. They were all compelled to change to offer the ERP systems from cloud, right? And the leaders of this change, as you may appreciate, the companies like Salesforce.com, Google, Amazon are some of the torchbearers, some of the leaders who initiated the change, which compelled the others to follow the change. Another set of forces can be the resistance forces caused by people who resist to change. Change is not very comfortable often, and there is always resistance from people because they have to shake themselves up. They have to displace themselves from the old technology to the new technology, old process to the new process, old methods to the new methods, and changing from anything old to anything new, unknown, uncertain is a thing of discomfort, and hence it brings in resistance from people, and it delays the process of change, right? So resistance to change can come from self-interest, misunderstanding, and distrust. We don't know, what is lying on the other side of the change. Is it going to take my job off, or is it going to make me redundant, or is it going to make me irrelevant, or is it going to cause a lot of discomfort to me? So these are the kind of questions which might pose misunderstanding and distrust between the employees and the organizations. Generally, there is an intolerance, as we said, as we just discussed. Change is about discomfort. Change is about shaking things up, and which many of the people are not ready to undergo, and hence there is a general intolerance towards change. So these are the forces around change: forces in favor of change, and the forces in resistance to change. Okay, so that suggests a quick brief model that explains as to how to make change happen. So, firstly, realizing that there is a compelling need to change, we have to unfreeze. It's time to unfreeze. Let us agree. Let us accept that the technology that we are living with, or the process that we are living with, is a thing of past. We have to give it up, and we have to unfreeze ourselves first, and then you change to the new wave, new technology, a new process, a new product category, new market, new segment, new geography, wherever, right? Whatever it is, whatever the component of change is, you change to it, which includes taking action, make the changes, involve people in the change. One person cannot do it, or just the top management alone cannot do it. You have to be continuously communicative to the people below the levels of the hierarchy, and make the change happen, and then refreeze into the new system, new changed environment. That is, make the change permanent. Keep communicating with the people. That's and don't leave a room for misunderstandings or distrust or apprehensions or uncertainties or rumors or gossips. These things take place only when there is a lack of communication from the top to the levels below, right? And establish new ways of things. Keep communicating, keep writing mails, keep arranging the town hall meetings, keep talking to the people. That's an essential exercise that organizations should take up when it's time of change. Reward the desired outcomes, right? As the change is happening, as you see people engaged in the process of change, appreciate them, reward them, so that it keeps them motivated. So some of the examples that you can see, the example of organizations you can see that have transitioned from where they come from to where they are operating today, right? So for example, Nokia, as we know, Nokia as a mobile maker, it was a leader at one point of time, but then mobile itself changed its versions, its formats, its technology, which Nokia unfortunately could not catch up with, and it lost the market to the leaders like Apple, Samsung, and many more, right? So it realized that mobile space is not its segment anymore. It has lost the wave. It has lost the leadership, and now Nokia is engaged into cloud, which is the new wave that the world is witnessing, the tech world is witnessing, and it now is so it unfreezed from the mobile as a mobile maker. It accepted the change, and it refreezed itself into a cloud service provider, software as a service provider, right? Likewise, Microsoft was engaged into its hardware, like and software, of course, the Microsoft's computer systems, as well as the Microsoft embedded systems like Windows, MS, various versions, numerous versions of Windows that we had seen, Windows 2000, Windows Millennial, Windows XP, Windows Professional. But then it thought it can't go too long, it has to change, and just sticking on to their subsequencing versions of Windows will not keep Microsoft in the business. So it identified that the wave is towards software as service, that is cloud, and Microsoft started its own business unit, and the initiative is called Azure, which is doing which is one of the best revenue generators now for Microsoft. Likewise, ITC, Indian Tobacco Company, which started its business with tobacco, but then in the recent years, about a decade and a half or so, it realized that the campaign around the world against the consumption of tobacco is on the rise, and the consumption of tobacco itself is on the fall, and it realized fast that if it sticks on to tobacco in the future years, it may lose its ground at a very accelerated pace. So what it did, it unfreezed itself from tobacco. It didn't stop completely, but it reduced its attention towards making tobacco, and it spread its presence into the FMCG sector, the stationery sector, the food and beverages sector, right? So and it started, it accepted the change, and it refreezed itself into the new segments. Likewise, Wipro, I don't know how many of us are aware of this story. Wipro, it didn't start as an IT firm. It was, before it came into the software, it was into the making of the palm oil and the shikakai soaps, right? The bathing soaps, and so that was a totally unrelated area where it was operating, and it was a sheer vision of Azim Premji, who in 80s, who observed that there is a wave coming in, the wave of computers. The country, India, was paving the road for computers to be brought into the country, and computerization, the paperless culture was setting in, and Azim Premji caught on to the opportunity and transformed the company altogether from what it was to a Wipro software company, what it is, as we know Wipro today as, right? So those are some of the illustrations where we saw companies unfreezing from their previous engagements, changing to what is the wave, and refreezing themselves in the new engagement, right? So that's how you understand change as a three-step process: unfreeze, change, and refreeze. How, like we saw, there was a resistance, there are forces of resistance to change. How do you manage the resistance? As we said, communicating, continuous communication with the employees, educating them about the benefits of the change, benefits of change to them, to the company, short-term benefits, long-term benefits, comforts, discomforts, everything transparently must be educated to the, must be imparted, must be communicated to the employees. Communication can help in communication about the change-related information can help in bringing them into a desirable perspective. So allow them to participate, instead of keeping the employees at a hand's distance. Allow them to participate in the deliberations, in the discussions, in the arguments, in the brainstorming sessions as to what they feel about the change, how can they make the change better, what are their ideas, right? So for instance, we can suggest an illustration in this regard about the Nissan Motors when it was about to hit bankruptcy in 90s, and it was then led by its then CEO Carlos Ghosn, and one of the Carlos Ghosn, and one of the best one of the initial initiatives that he had taken to manage change without resistance was to call for all those possible ideas that employees can think of that can contribute towards a successful turnaround of Nissan Motors from a loss-making auto making company to a profit-making company. And more than 1,000 ideas were gathered from the employees, and it was from those ideas which Carlos Ghosn used to draw his popular NRP Nissan revival plan, and which motivated the employees, which took the change ahead collectively by the leadership and the employees of the organization alike, with minimal resistance. Likewise, let employees discuss and agree on who will do what after change. So transparency and communication are the must for a change to happen without. And the last, of course, the last and the least possible option to make the change happen is by coercion, right? Though it is mentioned here as a way to manage resistance, but this is not desirable unless the situation is extremely chaotic, extremely out of control, when coercive tactics, coercion means by force, by pressure, intimidating upon the employees, but it may not function, it may not operate successfully in all the scenarios. Okay, so that brings us to the close. So that was innovation and the various dynamics around innovation, and that was change, various dynamics around change. So that brings us to a clear understanding about the two concepts. Um, um, okay, so that was it, and we'll see you with another video shortly. For more videos, sign up to the subscribe to the channel so that you have access as and when the new videos are uploaded onto the channel. Thank you all.